What would you do if someone offered you money to pretend to love them? Not for a day. Not for a week. But for 7 long months. When billionaire tech investor Daniel Harper asked his quiet housemaid, Sophia Martinez, to become his wife for a contract deal, he thought he was buying convenience. He thought he was solving a business problem. What he didn't know was that he was about to face the one thing money could never control: a heart changed by kindness. Before we begin, if you love emotional stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to Kinkoi's Corner, where every story carries a lesson worth remembering. Now let's begin. Daniel Harper lived in a glass mansion overlooking the coast of California. At 38 years old, he had everything most people only dream about: luxury cars, private jets, magazine interviews, and a tech company valued at nearly $1 billion. But when the cameras were off, his house was silent. No laughter. No warmth. No one waiting for him at dinner. Daniel had built walls around his heart long before he built his company. After a painful breakup years earlier, he decided love was a distraction. Business was safe. Business made sense. People, on the other hand, were unpredictable. Sophia Martinez had worked in Daniel's home for 3 years. She was 29, soft-spoken, hard-working, and deeply private. She sent most of her paycheck to her younger brother in Texas, helping him pay for college. She lived simply. She smiled often. And she treated every room she cleaned like it mattered. Daniel barely noticed her at first. To him, she was part of the routine. Until the day his biggest investor gave him an ultimatum. The investor, an old-fashioned businessman named Mr. Calloway, believed in family values. He didn't trust single CEOs. He thought stability at home meant stability in business. And unless Daniel presented himself as a married man at an upcoming international merger event, the deal would fall apart. The merger was worth hundreds of millions. Daniel had 2 options: find a real relationship in a month or fake one. That's when he made a decision that would change both their lives. One evening, Daniel asked Sophia to sit down in the living room. She looked confused. He had never asked her to sit before. "I need a favor," he said carefully. "A business arrangement. 7 months. You'd be compensated generously." Sophia listened quietly as he explained the contract: marriage. She would move into the master bedroom. Attend events. Smile beside him. Wear a wedding ring. After 7 months, it would end. No strings attached. In return, he would pay her enough money to secure her brother's education and buy her mother a small house. It was an unbelievable offer. Sophia asked for one night to think about it. She didn't sleep much. The money would change her family's life. But pretending to love someone? Living under the same roof as her employer in a lie? By morning, she made her decision. She agreed. The contract was signed. Lawyers handled the paperwork. A private ceremony was arranged for appearances. Photos were taken. The world believed Daniel Harper had suddenly fallen in love. And just like that, they began living as husband and wife. At first, everything felt awkward. They had rules. Separate emotional lives. No real affection. Public displays only when necessary. They spoke politely, like co-workers playing roles. But something unexpected began happening. Sophia didn't treat the marriage like a performance. She treated it like it was real. She started leaving small notes on Daniel's desk: "Don't forget to eat lunch. Good luck today. You've worked hard, be proud." When he came home late, she kept a plate warm. Not because she had to. Because she wanted to. Daniel tried to ignore it. It was part of the act, he told himself. But it didn't feel like an act. One night after a long board meeting, Daniel came home exhausted. The deal was complicated. Pressure was building. He snapped at Sophia over something small, a misplaced file. She didn't argue. Instead, she quietly picked up the file, handed it to him, and said, "You don't have to carry everything alone." Those words hit him harder than any business negotiation. No one had said something like that to him in years. As weeks turned into months, Daniel started noticing things he had never paid attention to before. Sophia volunteered at a local shelter on her days off. She donated part of her wife allowance anonymously to a children's hospital. She called her mother every Sunday without fail. She lived with gratitude, something Daniel had forgotten how to do. One afternoon, Daniel overheard her on the phone with her brother. "Yes, I'm okay," she said softly. "I just want you to focus on your dreams. Don't worry about me." Her voice carried strength and sacrifice. For the first time, Daniel felt something unfamiliar, respect that had nothing to do with contracts or business. Halfway through the 7 months, Daniel's company faced a sudden crisis. A competitor launched a damaging public attack. Stocks began to fall. Investors panicked. Daniel locked himself in his office for 2 days straight. Sophia knocked gently and walked in with coffee. "I know this isn't part of the agreement," she said, "but I believe in you." He laughed bitterly. "You believe in my bank account?" She shook her head. "No, I believe in the man who built something from nothing. The man who gives bonuses to employees' families every Christmas. The man who paid for his driver's daughter's surgery without telling anyone." Daniel stared at her. "How did you know about that?" "I listen," she said simply. In that moment, he realized something painful. Sophia saw him more clearly than anyone else ever had. The crisis passed. The merger succeeded. The investors were satisfied. The 7 months were almost over. One evening, Daniel sat alone in the kitchen staring at the contract. Just 2 weeks remained. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt terrified. Because somewhere between the notes, the late-night conversations, and the quiet kindness, the arrangement had stopped feeling fake. And he didn't know if it was the same for her. The final week arrived. Sophia packed her belongings quietly. She had already arranged to move into a small apartment. Her brother's tuition was fully paid. Her mother's house was purchased. The contract had been fulfilled. On the last night, they sat across from each other at the dining table. "Thank you," Sophia said gently. "You kept your promise." Daniel swallowed. "So did you." Silence filled the room. Finally, Daniel spoke. "What happens if I don't want it to end?" Sophia looked up, surprised. "You don't have to pretend anymore," he continued. "I don't want a contract. I want this. Real dinners. Real conversations. Real partnership." She studied his face carefully. "For 7 months, she said softly, "I wasn't pretending." His heart pounded. "I knew the contract would end," she continued. "So I decided I would give kindness freely, without expecting anything in return. Because even if it was temporary, I wanted it to be meaningful." Daniel stood up, walked around the table, and took her hands. "No more contracts," he said. "Stay because you want to. Not because I'm paying you." Tears filled her eyes, not because of the money, but because of the sincerity. And for the first time in his life, Daniel Harper felt something more valuable than wealth. He felt chosen. Months later, there was another wedding. This time, no contracts. No investors. No expectations. Just friends, family, and 2 people who had learned that kindness has the power to soften even the hardest hearts. Daniel stepped down from some of his corporate responsibilities. Together, he and Sophia launched a foundation that helped single parents and immigrant families start small businesses. Reporters often asked Daniel what changed him. He would smile and say, "Kindness. I thought I was paying for love. Turns out, love was teaching me how to be kind." Because in the end, the real twist wasn't that the millionaire fell in love. It was that he discovered what truly makes a person rich. Not contracts. Not status. Not power. But the quiet, consistent choice to care for someone even when you don't have to. If this story touched your heart, remember this: kindness is never wasted. Even when it feels unnoticed. Even when it feels temporary. You never know whose life you might be changing or how your simple compassion might come back to transform your own. Thank you for watching Kinkoi's Corner. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still matters. And until next time, choose kindness, because sometimes, the smallest acts create the biggest miracles.